All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the In the 11 podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Griffiths, and this is the show where we bring on those from the world of football to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. And now, with the conclusion of the season here in Australia, I wanted to come on and talk about what the season was like for me and give you the recap and give you all the highs and the lows of the season so far. I'm going to do a bit of a longer form interview kind of style with this topic in a couple weeks, where I'm going to have a guest interview me just because I think it might be better for asking questions that I may not think of while just speaking here solo. But in reference to that as well, if any of you have specific questions that you want to know about my time in Australia, what it's like to play in Australia, anything like that, make sure that you leave a comment on this video right here on YouTube, and I will make sure that it gets answered in the upcoming interview. With that being said as well, if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you're not watching on YouTube, head on over and make sure you hit subscribe to the channel, especially if you're listening right now and you've got a question that you want answered. You're going to have to go over to YouTube because that's where all the questions are going to come in from. So without further ado, let's kick off the intro music and get into the episode. So, I'm recording this on Monday, the 25th, and the season ended this past weekend. When this comes out, this will obviously be in October. But let's see, where do we begin on my time with Australia? So I kind of had, if you want to go back and look at the initial episode of when I spoke about first coming over here, I break down a lot of my decision to come to Australia, how I first got here, how I made it over. I also had Ryan Hogan on the podcast, who was kind of the agency that helped me get over to Australia, get over to Perth. So I'd encourage you to go check out those two episodes if you want some further context prior. But basically, long story short, end of last year, 22, I was kind of thinking I wanted to go and try and play again overseas, that is, and was looking at Australia, I was looking at New Zealand as an opportunity to do that. And eventually found an opportunity through Ryan, through PlaySport Agency, and then came over in January of 23 to Perth. I got here in like the middle to end of January, and there was so much to do. Like, I spoke about it with Yang last week, but when you move and play in a new place, like, there's so much that you have to do all at once. There's so many new things you have to adjust to and kind of coordinate, all in a very short period of time, where, yes, your goal is to go and find a team and play well, but on top of that, you have to, get your visa secured, find a place to live, find transportation, in some cases find a job. Like, it's a lot to do all at once. So, to be honest, my biggest goal was really just securing a contract, because I didn't really know a lot about the system here, how it worked, how the leagues worked. And I was really kind of just going off of what my agent had sort of told me about. And yeah, the football part, I'll just say I didn't do as much research as I maybe should have. But then again, like, I didn't really have a ton of time, or so I thought. I didn't have a ton of time to make a decision. Like, when I got here, I knew the season was starting with what's called Night Series, which is like a preseason tournament in February. And I wanted to sign with a team before that because I thought kind of everybody would have their rosters locked in before that. Lo and behold, a lot of people still signed after that. But anyway, when I went down to Subiaco and trained with them, after the first night, they offered me the contract, and I was kind of just like, let's take this. It seems like a good staff, seems like a good club, decent contract, and I'd rather have something secured than keep gambling and maybe not get something in time. Because I've been down that road before where, like, your player card isn't there, and all, like, just things get backlogged, and it's not fun when you have to sit out and wait because of timing issues or administrative kind of bureaucratic things. So, like I said, if I was going to do it again, maybe I would have done a little bit more research on the football side. But again, like when you're trying to just figure so many things out, like I'm trying to find somewhere to live first and foremost, because it doesn't matter what team I'm playing for if I don't have somewhere to live. So I don't really regret anything in that regard. But the only reason I say that is because, obviously, once I got more settled, I then came to kind of find out that Subi was a team for the past 4 years. So in 2018, they played in the NPL, which is the top. So the second division of Australia, but the league right below the A League. And 2018, they were relegated from basically 2019 up to present day. Every season they've been in a relegation battle. So that wasn't really something I was aware of, that Subiaco was in a relegation battle every year since that 2018 NPL season. So I don't really think it affects my decision at all. But again, just knowing that going in, maybe kind of knowing what season we're about to have. But even that, it's hard to accredit that to anything, because certain teams, especially in the leagues down here where, a whole team can kind of turn over from one year to the next because everyone just signs 1-year deals. Like, it's really hard to guarantee that any past seasons are 100% indicative of what the next season is going to be. I think as I got into Subiaco and kind of saw everything that was around, and again, I'm not like speaking ill about the club. I have so much love for the club. You can see like small things as to why maybe there's kind of been some struggles, but again, it's good people around there. So yeah, I signed, and then I played with them in night series in February. And in the beginning of the season, I was doing well. I was playing a couple different positions as well. Honestly, like a little bit higher up. Played like 2 games in night series at wing, which I hadn't done that in years, but I really enjoyed it. And then right before the cup game, so we were supposed to have our first cup game, and then the league was going to kick off the next week. Right before the cup game, I picked up an injury to my hamstring, same injury that I had when I was back in New York playing with the Shockers. And so I was out for a couple weeks, was unable to play in the cup, but then was healthy to come back once the first game of the season was happening. And I played about like 60-ish or 70 minutes that game. And I did decently well. Got to play in the midfield, and I was pretty pleased overall. It was tough coming back from injury. It was super hot that day. We played on AstroTurf and wound up having to come off with cramp just because of the fitness levels weren't quite there given the recovery from injury. So we drew that game 2-2. We then went on to play the team who actually just got promoted via the promotion playoff. We lost 4-3 on like a last minute goal. But we were really, I think, unlucky to not come away with a point that day. And then we won 2 games in a row, and I scored in both those games, again, playing in the midfield. So from the first 4 games, we had 7 points, and I had 2 goals. So as a team, we were, I think, sitting in like 4th or 5th place, and I was really happy on an individual level as well. I'm thinking to myself, in 4 games, if I've scored 2 goals, like, man, could I be pushing for like 8 or 10 goals this season or something like that, And again, from a team perspective, you're kind of thinking, again, it's very early, but you're like, what if we could be kind of in and around that promotion playoff hunt? Obviously, as I go on to tell the remainder of the story, it's probably sounds a bit foolish, but I even did a podcast with Ryan Hogan on his show, which we recorded it right around that time, and we were talking about all these things like, oh, things are going well. I'm excited, blah, blah, blah. It's funny that never actually got released because there was an issue with the audio. So we always talked about re-recording it. And as the season progressed, it would have been a drastically different podcast had we re-recorded it at another time. But yeah, so going off of that, the other thing that was difficult about that first bit of the season was, as much as there was like successes and highs team wise and individually, I also didn't ever really feel fully properly fit. Like I had recovered from the injury. That first game, I had to come off with cramp. The second game, I kind of thought I might have done my hamstring again. There was just like a small tweak that I felt. And ever since then, probably for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I had constant issues with it. And it was just like this kind of feeling of, at any point, this might go. And it really weighed on me mentally, when you're in a match and you feel like there's always just this chance that you feel like your hamstring like isn't at 100% and that it could kind of tweak at any time. So I wouldn't say it's like a grade 1 strain or anything that I was playing with, but probably like a minor strain that I felt like I played with probably for 8 weeks, maybe 9 weeks. I don't know. I was always with the physio. I was always kind of struggling. Obviously, still able to play, but I think maybe it probably affected also my confidence in, sprinting at full speed at certain points, or just, I don't know. I can't ever put my finger on a distinct moment in which I know that I took my foot off the gas due to the injury, but it's just something, when that's in your subconscious, it's hard not to think about it, So that was over the course of the following games, we played some really tough opponents, and we kind of had a mixed bag of results. And then going into like week 9 or week 10, which was a really difficult time for me because that was when I was dealing with the passing of my dog, and that whole week leading up to me deciding to go home, I was, on the phone until all hours of the night, not really sleeping that well, obviously very emotional. And then we played the game on the Saturday. We played against bottom of the table, Forest Field. And I think honestly that was a game that was like a bad turning point for us in a negative way, because they were bottom of the table, not the best side, a game that we really, for a team like us, we need to pick up 3 points against them. And we were up 1-0. We unfortunately conceded a pretty poor goal. We immediately, basically right off the kickoff, go and score to make it 2-1, and then concede another really poor goal to make it 2-2. So we left with a point. Unfortunately, both times we played Forest Field this year, we were only able to get a point. So, that's 4 points that we left on the table against a side that we really shouldn't have, which is frustrating. But when you have a draw like that, it feels more like a loss than it does a draw. It feels more like 0 points than even the 1 point that you get for consolation. But that was a tough game for me. I like mentally, I had to kind of just block out all the noise and focus for 90 minutes. And then it wound up that night I jumped on a plane and flew back home to the States. So I was home for a few days and then went back for the following weekend. Obviously didn't play just because I hadn't trained all that week and was at home. And then we had lost that game while I was like kind of traveling. That was against the top of the team that won the league. Came back the next week and Who did we play? We played against... we played against Dianella at home, which was a good team. Team, I believe, finished 5th, just outside of the promotion playoff. But we, unfortunately, a player got sent off, I believe, in like minute 20 or 25, something like that, like very early. And so kind of just the wheels came off the bus for us once that happened. And we played, a majority of that match with a man down. And so now you're looking at like kind of 3 games in a row where you get a point where you really should have and needed to get 3. You follow that up with a loss against the top of the table, which in a sense may be expected, but at the same time is still like demoralizing for the club morale. And then you lose against a team where I thought we were honestly playing half decent, but it's always going to be a challenge when you go down a man. So, it's 3 weeks where it's kind of like things are, for lack of a better word, circling the drain, sort of. Then I'm not sure where exactly we are in terms of by game to game. I can't remember who exactly we played after Dianella, but essentially at a certain point, right around this time, and it probably was the start with the top of the table loss, I believe we went on like a 7-game losing streak. And it was really difficult. Like, just the spirits were really low, and it was tough for everybody at the club just because we felt like, I don't know, as cliche as it sounds, you just don't feel like you're as bad as the results are. And it's so hard to obviously prove otherwise because the results are speaking for themselves, but you're just like, I know that we're not this team. I know we're not, this team that's just sliding down the table. And it was right around towards the end of this 7-game run on the bounce where we lost, where we kind of fell into that position where now we were in the relegation playoff spot. So the way it works in our league is the top team gets promoted. The next 3 will go into a promotion playoff with the second worst of the league above us, which is the MPL. And then on the flip side of that, the worst team gets relegated to State League 2, and the second worst team goes into a playoff with the second place, third place, and fourth place of State League 2. So we slid into that position. Right towards maybe the middle of this streak was when my family came over, and that was great. They were here for a week. They got to see me play. And again, another game that I look back as like a real turning point in the season, or a real kind of demoralizing game. We played against a team at home. We were winning 2-1, and then they got a player sent off, the second yellow. So, right, maybe it was 1-1, and then we went on to score after the second yellow. I can't remember, but essentially 2-1 with a man advantage. You think, kind of this should be smooth sailing home. And the team that we played against goes on to score 2 goals in the span of like 10 minutes, and they win with a man down and win the game 3-2. So we go from what we thought was a for sure 3 points to now walking away with 0. Obviously, that also sucked to have that be the game in front of my family. Would have been awesome to have a win, to celebrate with them. And then individually as well, I felt something early on in that game, like a tweak in my groin, and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was just normal. And then kind of after the game, I really couldn't walk without major pain. So I went to the physio, found out that I had a grade 1 tear in my groin. I think it was grade 1. Yeah, it definitely wasn't higher than grade 2. So I proceeded to then miss the next 4 games. So I missed about a month with rehabbing and coming back from that. So that was tough. And in the process of that happening, that time when I was injured, the club, I guess, president or board or whoever decided to relieve our coach. And I don't know. I don't necessarily even have a ton to say. He was a great guy. He was the one who gave me my chance, obviously by offering me a contract when I first got here. And him and I had a great relationship. But I think, I don't know, the results. Again, like I said before, the results speak for themselves. So when you're losing and now you're in that spot where you're slipping into the relegation playoff zone, a change just needed to be made. So they brought in a whole new coaching staff with about 8 games to go. And obviously when it's hard because there's never really a good time to be injured, but it's always really tough to be injured when a new staff comes in because you can't really prove yourself. Now, the new staff had come and watched some of our games, and so they had seen me play in the game when I got injured. So who knows if that was necessarily my best performance, but they had a little bit to go off of. But again, you can't go out and train. You can't go out and play on the weekends to show them what you can do. So you feel as though you're already kind of a step or a leg behind everyone going into it. I finally rehab. I finally get better. I get back on the pitch. First game back, I was told the 2 nights before that I'd be playing with the reserves for like 45, 50 minutes just to get my legs back underneath me and get fit. Hopefully push back up into the first team. Night before, team comes out and I'm in the team for the first team. So I'm like, okay. And then wound up starting that game. So it was kind of a lot. It was like my first game back from injury. It was also my first game playing for the new coaching staff. And it was also the first time they had played left back all year. I'd played almost everywhere else, center of the park, right mid, left mid, right wing, right back. I had not played left back yet. And they decided to start me at left back. So I was honestly it was a lot. I was definitely nervous about it. Especially wanting to be mindful of the injury and knowing what I had gone through with the hamstring. I didn't want to have that same process where now for the remainder of the season, I was just going to be kind of in a constant state of like a little bit of pain and a mild tweak the rest of the way. So we actually got a point against a really good opponent. So I was happy with that. I played like 70 minutes, wound up coming off like unscathed with injury. So that was good. That was positive. And yeah, it kind of speaks to another point as well, but I think I played 5, maybe 6 different positions all year. And I don't know, I have mixed emotions on it. I have mixed feeling on it because on the one hand, I am grateful that I was able to play as much as I did. I think I started like 20 games out of 22, and I am I'm happy that I was just always able to be on the field as much as possible, even if that meant having to kind of plug and play me in different positions. I felt like I could never, looking back now, I probably wasn't able to really find much of a rhythm with my play from a specific position standpoint. Like I could never really know going into training, hey, this is where I'm going to be. So this is like, I remember I went and trained individually with Two Halves Football Development, which is a really great training place down here in Perth. If anyone's ever down here, definitely check them out. And I was like, hey, I'm looks like I'm playing left back. Can we do a left back specific training session? Just working on a lot of functional movements, a lot of receiving on my left foot, a lot of playing with my left foot, things like that. And then so I did that whole session, and then I wound up playing the midfield that week. So it's like just things like that. Like you feel like you can never really kind of get comfortable in a position and grow and push on and progress. And I think, especially looking back at the first couple of games, like under that coach, I think it was a difficult system that he wanted to play for midfielders and what was asked of them. But I think I kind of did better in that system and just under his coaching. And, obviously I scored those 2 goals as well. Like, I felt like had I maybe been given a shot at that position all year long, it could have been, who knows what it could have been like. Just for me on a personal level, I don't know if I would have, drastically changed what the team trajectory was, or even if it was right back, if I was given 15 games or, 18 games at right back or something like that. Who knows? Because when I played as a fullback, I did get 2 assists, 1 at right back, 1 at left back. So that was kind of my season-ending stats: 2 goals, 2 assists. But yeah, it's just another thing I look at as maybe like had its highs, had its lows as I look back on the season, as I kind of lay it out for you guys here. I'm sure you can hear that this is, I think, a lot of what football seasons are like, where you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows, both as a team and individually. And sometimes it's just about riding the wave and trying to stay even keeled, which I can say I think I've done a much better job of this year and this season, of being able to stay more level through everything. Like when I get an injury, it's not the end of the world. If I get dropped, like, it's not the end of the world. I just keep trying to show up, keep trying to do what I can to the best of my ability to help myself, help the team, and then the rest will handle itself. So the last few weeks that followed the new coaching staff, I get back healthy, I play, were just the epitome of roller coaster. It was so stressful, from like a player perspective, because you just, everyone feels the pressure of not wanting to get relegated. And I'm sure I'll talk about this more in depth, like in the interview part, but like just conversations that you have with certain people, like it's constantly brought up, and it's constantly being addressed. And like, I don't know, like, you feel like sometimes you want to just say, like, I'm not trying to get us relegated, like that's not my goal either. But again, I understand people's emotion. I understand people just wanting to try and have the best outcome for their club. And going down a league affects a lot. It affects the trajectory of the club. It affects, will players stay? It affects the youth setup as well, like, because a lot of the juniors, like the reserve team and the 18s, are tied to the first team. So whatever league the first team plays in, they play in the corresponding 18s or reserve league. So if they go down, a lot of players there will leave. Like, it's just a big domino effect, and a lot of people rely on the club being in a certain position or potentially pushing for higher in years to come. So it was just stressful. And it was also, and maybe that was part of it that weighed on my individual play. Maybe it was just trying to find my footing under the new coaches. Maybe it was a multitude of things. Maybe it was just fatigue towards the end of a season, and maybe a bit of burnout. I don't know. I can't put my finger on one specific thing, but I think I had a very up and down last 8 games in terms of, or, however many games, in terms of my play. I had some good games. I had some pretty poor performances. I had some that were like, had moments in them that were terrible, and then moments in them that were excellent. So it's like, what do you grade that game as? It's hard to gauge, with a run of form like that. And I really felt like I couldn't quite figure out how to rectify it. And as much as I tried to stay even keel, as much as I tried to stay consistent in the work, for whatever reason, come match day, like the confidence just would seem to kind of struggle, and it was a bit of the story for the near the end of the season for me personally. So, with all that being said, even though we had our struggles as a team, we go into the last game of the season and we're playing against the team who is 2 spots above us. Not really a great side, to be honest, but going into it, we controlled our destiny because we were, at the time, at the start of the match, we were safe. We were in the safety zone because we were tied with the team below us, but we had better goal difference. So if we win the game, we're through. Basically, if the team below us loses the game, we're also through. Or if we both draw, like essentially we just need to better their result. But if they lose, then it doesn't matter and we're going through anyway. So it kind of felt like one of those things where, and I often felt this with this season, it just was like, if something could go wrong, something would go wrong with the group that we had this year. Like, you just, as voodoo as it may sound, you feel like the soccer gods are just against you, and you almost like feel like it's your destiny to an extent. I remember a good friend of mine, teammate, at one point after a game, he was just at a loss for words. He was like, I wonder if we're just cursed. And at first when he says that, you think, like, what? Come on. Like, that's crazy. But then certain things happen where you're 2-1 up and you're a man up and you lose the game 3-2. Or you're playing bottom of the table and they have 4 shots the whole game. We have 20 something and they score a goal off of a long throw in that just bounces off somebody's face basically, and it's 1-1. When we're ahead 1-0, we could have gone away with 3 points. Like, things like that, you just feel like, man, like, is there a higher power that's maybe working against us? So I started to kind of maybe buy into what he was saying. But anyway, we go into the last game of the season, right? We go into the last week, and the team that we're playing has nothing to play for. They can't climb in the ladder at all. So there's part of us that's also hoping like that they're just kind of lie down. And again, if the team below us loses, which they're playing against a good opponent who did have something to play for, they could climb a space in the ladder, we are safe. We go up 3-0 in the first half. Again, this is where I say, like, I feel like there's just like a curse or something at play. We go up 3-0 in the first half. At halftime, we're more or less like, damn, we're smooth sailing in here. We get to go into the off season. We get to relax. Like, this is end of August. The other team comes out in the second half and scores 4 unanswered goals. We lose 4-3. The team that was below us at the start of the day wins 2-1. We were 45 minutes away from our season being over, us being safe. And safe without having to go to the relegation playoff. Like, it was I've never felt like that before my whole life, and it was demoralizing. It was a devastating day, and you just, like, you don't want to go into the club afterwards. You just want to get as far away as you possibly can and not have to look anyone in the eye, because it sucks. But with that result, it then meant that we had to go into the relegation playoff to decide if we were going to stay in State League 1 or go into State League 2. I was hoping it was just going to be like, all right, right into the next week, maybe we'll play a midweek game and then we'll play on the Saturday, because come to find out, it was a 2-leg first match, and then a one-off final. So we finished second to last in State League 1. We played the team that finished fourth in State League 2 in a two-leg home and away. Instead, we had a whole week off. So the following weekend, we didn't play. Then 2 weeks after the last game of the season, we go and we play the first leg. We play it at home. So like already you're, like I said, you're 45 minutes away from your season being over. You get to relax, kick your feet up, go into off-season mode, and just breathe out, right? Like exhale. Okay, we're not getting relegated. Like we did it. To now, you have to go back into that stress mode of like high alert. How do we not get relegated for a month? Finally, the first leg comes. And to be perfectly honest with you, I was not the most confident going into this whole situation because one, promotion or relegation playoffs, history shows that literally anything is possible. Like it's just they're so wildly unpredictable. And there's so much at stake, like it's hard to be super confident in anything. Furthermore, we're coming off a demoralizing last match. We're coming off kind of a season in which we had a downward sloping trend, whereas the teams in State League 2 are on the uptick. They're climbing the mountain. They're winning games. They're finishing near the top, right? So you're like, in a way, you're a little bit defeated before you already go into the match, but like overall the quality of the teams we've been playing all year is much higher. The level is higher. Like we should be able to handle business. We go in to the first leg. I started in the midfield, played about 75 minutes. We won that game 3-1. And the one is important because they got an away goal. We were up 3-0, and then I came off. Then they scored at the end. Then we go to their place the following week, and they had this tiny little pitch. And the fence was right on top of the pitch, basically. So they had all the fans like within touching distance of the players on the sideline. And definitely as the game progressed, like just some of the things you would hear from these fans, it was like, especially when it's that close, you're like, all right, wow, this feels like a real promotion relegation battle. Like, but that's what football's about. That's why it's exciting. So I was not expecting it, but I was placed on the bench for this game. I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it. It came as a bit of a shock. I didn't know. I thought maybe, again, I never know what position I'm going to play, but I thought having played in the match and won, I thought there was a good chance that he would probably keep the midfield the same and run it back. But yeah, it is what it is. Happens sometimes. So I started on the bench. I came in for the last like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. I don't know, maybe more. But it wasn't really even a match at this point. It was just we were losing at the time 2-1, and meaning we would go through on aggregate. So we won the first game 3-1. We were winning 2-1 at the time. Oh no, sorry. We were losing 2-1. So we had 4 goals in total over the course of the 2 games. They had 3. For anyone who doesn't know, like how home and away legs work, it's the aggregate score. So who has the most goals out of the 2 games, and then if that's a tie, then it goes to who scored the most away goals, and then beyond that, you'll go into like extra time, things like that. So we're losing 2-1. At this point, we're still going to go through if the game ends like that, but you need to see it out. And if they score another one, then it goes to extra time. And then again, it's like that, anything can happen type mentality. So I come on, and it's just like defend for your life, get the ball into the corners, try and get fouled. It's not even football. It's just hang on for dear life, basically, for however long is left in the match. We do that. All the boys are excited. But again, this is like something that I guess was another thing that would lead you to maybe not be confident going into this whole playoff situation, is the fact that for us, it's more or less it's not a lose-lose situation, but it's a very lukewarm situation to be in, right? Because if you win the whole thing, you're right back where you started. You get to stay in State League One. So it's like you won something, but you're just back at square one in a sense. Whereas for everyone in State League Two, they have something to play for. And they win and they go up, they get promoted. Now, even if they lose, they still look at that season as a successful season. They made it into the promotion playoff, and now they're looking at the next season like, hey, maybe we can make a push for the league. So for them, it's like they're playing with house money, right? Like, and that's a dangerous thing, is when you're playing against a team with nothing to lose, like that's scary, because we're a team that has everything to lose, because if we lose, we go down. Basically, for them, it's all reward. For us, it's all risk. So we navigate the first two legs, and we get through, and we get to play in the final against the team that finished in third. Everyone was predicting the team that finished second, Maddington, to make it to the final. We played a team called Swan in our two legs. Everyone was predicting a team named Maddington to make it to the final. It was actually Curtin that beat them over the course of the two legs. So the final is played at this brand new, it's called the State Football Center. They just built it, and it's like an unbelievable facility, like top level pro facility. Carpet for a pitch, great stands, like top class changing rooms, all like new state of the art stuff. There's a gym. There's like, when we show up for the match, like it's all official there's like security. We have to get player passes, press box up top, like super cool experience just to even be part of that. Like, as you know, again, you wish the situation was different, the circumstance was different, to be playing for like a cup final or a promotion playoff or something, but it's to just even have the chance to play there, I'm super grateful for that experience. Now, as I said, I'm coming off a week where I only played the last 10 or 20 minutes, and now we're in a one-off final. So now I really don't know. Part of me is thinking there could be even a chance that I get dropped from the 18, which would suck for sure. I don't know, there's a chance I could get put back in the team because we had just lost the previous match. There's a chance that I could start on the bench again. I have no idea. Not a clue. We wound up changing formations as well, playing a formation that we had never really played all year in this match, which turned out to be a good thing, because to spoil it, I guess the story here is we did win and we stayed up and we're safe for the 2024 season. So I unfortunately was dropped to the bench again, and was not brought on, was an unused sub. And I'm super happy for the boys, super happy for the club that we were able to stay up. But obviously there's definitely some emotion there. It's like you're a little bit disappointed not to play, especially in an occasion like that. And yeah, I think every player that plays the game, they want to play. They don't want to sit on the bench the whole time. And I don't really hold any animosity or ill will towards anybody. Like, it is what it is. They had to do what they thought was best to stay up. And that's the only goal that day, is stay in the league by any means necessary. Whoever you play, however you do it, it does not matter. Just stay up. So I get it. Like I said, it's disappointing to feel like I wasn't one that was trustworthy enough of being in that group, but that happens in football. Like I said in the beginning of this, there's highs and there's lows, there's ups, there's downs, there's goals and there's wins, there's injuries and there's drops. And this season had all of that for me. So at the culmination of this weekend, it was like so much emotion just kind of released all at once. It was like this relief of this heightened stress that you've been feeling for months on end now, just dissipating. And like you were so craving that result and so craving that other side where you're safe and you can breathe out, that it was like I almost didn't know how to process it and how to feel about it. And again, then also too, not playing in the last match and feeling like I'd put so much into this group and this team and my playing career, and also just knowing what I had been through prior to even getting to Australia, like, and then seeing what I had accomplished this year, proving to myself that I can play overseas and I can play at a high level, and it was just like so much emotion Sunday night that like I don't know, like I got so much anxiety, I guess, from just having to try and understand what was going on. Um, it's been a long journey to get to this point. It's been a long road, starting from Germany and Denmark and home, and there's a huge part of me that never thought I would be here, and to be here again and to have achieved what I've achieved, to get paid to play the game again, and like I don't know if I can put it into words what this experience and this journey has meant to me. I want to take some time more. Next, when this comes out, I will actually be in a plane. I'm going to go to Hawaii for a couple days, and then I'm going to go home. So I want to take some more time, like just to kind of decompress before I give my maybe more eloquent and focused thoughts on, like, as I look at the season as a whole and I summarize it. But I think gratitude was an emotion that I felt a lot. Relief was an emotion that I felt a lot. And also some excitement to have some time off and to go home. And, there was definitely perhaps a little bit of burnout that I was feeling towards the end of the season, especially with the coaching responsibilities, the playing responsibilities, the kind of just pressure that you feel. It feels nice to kind of have the monkey off your back a little bit here. So, yeah, like I said, as of yesterday, at the time of this recording, I am officially in off-season mode. I am having some time off and enjoying. I've got 1 week here in Australia. We'll go on the season-ending trip with the boys, and then, like I said, going to go to Hawaii and then go home for a bit and really just try and take some time to just spend it with my family and just spend it with friends and kind of enjoy that. And then, the question as far as what's next is, I don't know. And I kind of made the decision a couple weeks ago that I was like, I can't make an accurate decision right now because I'm just too emotionally tied up in all of the season. I need time removed to be able to actually give myself the best chance to create a good response to what's next. I have spoken to the club here. I think that there is some interest to bring me back, but again, with given how the last two games went and being dropped, like I don't know maybe if things from the coaching side are different than what the directors and president of the club have in mind. So I may not be necessarily part of the plans. I don't know. Like, I don't want to speculate too much. There has been a little bit of interest from other clubs around this area. I also, I don't know. I just want to see, I've obviously have a number of good clips from this year. I have some good highlights that I can kind of see just what's out there, or do something else. Like, I don't know. I know I'm like kind of still even half answering it right now, but I don't have an answer definitively to give right now. So I'm not going to try. anymore on this episode. I did not expect to go this long. I guess it's tough to summarize a whole entire season with all the ups and downs in just 30 or 45 minutes or whatever. But like I said, look out for probably 3 or 4 weeks from now, maybe even sooner than that. There'll be an episode that comes out where I'm going to kind of have someone interview me about the season to hopefully ask some of the questions that I may have not thought of, or hopefully bring out ideas that can be better accessed when you're speaking to another person versus just me sitting alone in my apartment and giving you a solo episode. Hopefully you still enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you still kind of understand what it's like to play overseas and can gain something from my story. With that being said, regarding the next episode that is going to be the interview style, make sure that you drop a comment on the YouTube of this one to ask what your questions are about Australia, playing football here, my season, etc., whatever it may be, so that it can get answered in the next video. And make sure while you're there as well, if you are not subscribed, that you hit subscribe, as it helps the channel grow massively. That's it. So year 1 in Australia is officially in the books. It is crazy to say that. I wouldn't have predicted this at this time last year, but thank you so much. Be on the lookout. There'll be a couple more episodes that are still recorded in Australia with some guests, but are going to come out by the time I am home. And obviously, like I said, that interview with the recap of Australia. But I appreciate your guys' support so much. It has been massive for me in my time over here in Australia. Those of you who are reaching out, checking in, and asking questions about what it's like, it means a lot to me. It means a lot of your support of this show as well. And I can't thank you enough. Signing off from year 1 in Australia. Peace.